Chapter 33 The Final Test. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 3, perched on Brocky's shoulder, glared down at Rogge, Luffy, Vivi, Sanji, and Zoro on the tree spirit with a sinister expression. Everyone's here, perfect. Today, you all face the ultimate test. These giants will crush you, 3 announced. Rogge, Luffy, and the others sized up the 2 giants, realizing they were also under Golden Week's color control. Alright, 3, spill it. Where are Nami and Usopp? Rogge demanded. 3 smirked. They'll be feeling despair soon enough. They're in the Candle Castle on the island. But hurry, it's melting fast, and they'll be fused with the wax. Everyone looked towards the island and the candle-covered castle. It wouldn't be long before the whole place melted. Usopp and Nami were trapped inside. Damn it! Nami's in there. Sanji panicked. So, you need to beat those 2 giants, and you're on the clock, 3 taunted. Crap. Nami and Usopp are in danger. Luffy exclaimed. Rogge turned to Sanji. Sanji, go save Nami and Usopp, go go go. Sanji glanced at Rogge, then at the White Candle Castle. Okay, got it. I'm on it. Sanji leaped off the tree spirit. Nami, I'm coming for you. He yelled, sprinting toward the lake. I'm going too. I can help Sanji. Vivi declared. Rogge directed the tree spirit to lower Vivi and Karoo. Vivi hopped onto Karu's back, ready to assist Sanji. Splitting up is the only way. Now we face those 2 monsters, Rogge said. Luffy and Zoro, still on the tree spirit, wore grim expressions. The sheer power radiating from the giants was undeniable. 3, still on Brocky's shoulder, sneered at Rogge and the others. So many reckless kids. But my buddies Brocky and Dory are way stronger. Yeah. Brocky and Dory roared in unison, shaking the surrounding area. These 2 giants were legendary warriors, close friends for ages. Even under Golden Week's control, their warrior spirit remained. Hey, look! Humans on a wooden monster. Brocky, the red ogre, bellowed. You're wrong, that's a tree spirit. One of those old legends, Dory, the blue ogre, corrected. Since we're fighting, let's introduce ourselves. We're the Straw Hat Pirates. We're here to rescue our friends, so we'll take down anyone who gets in our way, Rogge stated. Dory nodded. Fighting for your friends, I respect that. But we have to fight you for friendship's sake, Brocky added. We all fight for friendship. Luffy, Rogge, Zoro, and the giants shouted together. Dory. Brocky. The giants announced their names. Red energy began to pulse from Brocky's body, a manifestation of his fighting spirit. Cyan light enveloped Dory as well. Both wore massive cloaks and wielded enormous blades, radiating fierce determination. They were the epitome of true warriors. Open sky. Dory swung his colossal sword down. Earth. Brocky brought his gigantic axe crashing down. 2 shockwaves of green and red erupted, cutting down the tree spirit beneath Rogge and the others. The blast carved 2 massive trenches into the forest hundreds of yards behind them. Rogge, Luffy, and Zoro managed to jump clear just in time. Being hit by the shockwave directly would have been devastating. The tree spirit was completely destroyed, its huge limbs scattered everywhere. They're pretty nimble, humans have the size advantage, Brocky commented. Rogge, Luffy, and Zoro landed on the ground. Rogge looked at 3 on Brocky's shoulder and immediately drew his vine whip. I'm taking you down. That the vine whip shot out at incredible speed, Rogge's arms glowing green as he infused it with the plant fruit's growth power. Oh! 3 instantly activated his candle powers, forming a shield. But to his surprise, the vine whip snaked around the shield and bound his body. Gotcha. 3 was soon encased in candle wax. Rogge yanked hard, pulling the wax figure 3 to the ground. The candle wax quickly melted, revealing him again. Rogge quickly retracted his vine whip. You're a devil fruit user, and a plant type, no less. That's rare, 3 observed. Yep, a plant fruit user, Rogge confirmed. Perfect, while your friends are busy with the giants, let's have a little fight, 3 said. Okay, let's duel. Rogge replied calmly. Meanwhile, Dory and Zoro, Brockie and Luffy, had already engaged in combat. At the same time, Vivi, Karoo, and Sanji were racing towards the lake. Nami, hold on. I'm coming to save you. Sanji shouted, just as the chivalrous chef was about to dive in. Vivi stopped him. Wait, Sanji, you and I will get there together on Karoo. Vivi said. Sanji's eyes immediately lit up with hearts. Okay, Vivi. Vivi, riding on Karoo's back, moved forward and said, Sanji, hurry up and get behind me. Sanji happily sat behind Vivi. For a night, sitting behind a beautiful woman is a real pleasure. Before Sanji could finish speaking, Karoo was already squawking and jumping towards the lake. The duck moved with surprising speed in the water. Wow, this is fast. Vivi, I thought Alabasta was a desert kingdom. How's a desert duck this good at swimming? Sanji said. Karoo is a unique duck to Alabasta that can run fast, is amphibious and can do everything except fly. Karoo is the best one among them and can run fast. Vivi said. I see. Sanji said. Moving as fast as a rowboat, they quickly arrived at the island. Chapter 34 Sanji #039, S Hero Saves the Beauty. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Arriving at the island in the middle of the lake, Sanji hopped right off. Karoo and Vivi were already there. Ahead stood a small castle made of white candles. I don't see Nami and the others. They must be inside, Vivi said. This whole place is melting. We need to put out those candles, quick. Sanji exclaimed. Just then, pterodactyls swooped down from the sky. One grabbed for Vivi. Heads up. Sanji launched a flying kick, knocking the pterodactyl away. It crashed into the lake nearby. Vivi, I'll handle these pterodactyls. You put out those candles. Sanji ordered. Got it. Let's go, Karoo. Vivi told her duck. She hopped on Karoo's back, pulled out her peacock slashers, and spun them in circles. Gah. Karoo, looking determined, pumped his huge duck legs. Vivi's blades sliced through the flames of the candles circling the castle. Karoo ran around the castle at top speed, and Vivi extinguished all the burning candles. Nice one, Vivi. Sanji yelled as he kicked another pterodactyl. More than a dozen pterodactyls dove at him, but Sanji knocked them all down with his kicks. Sanji! Vivi called out. Alright, let's get to the castle. Sanji shouted, running towards it. The candle castle had rooms inside. Let's split up and search, Vivi suggested. Here. Vivi called out. Sanji rushed to a room on the left where Vivi was. There, Nami and Usopp were tied up with candle shackles. Sanji, Vivi. You're here to save us. Usopp cried, tears and snot running down his face. Miss Nami, I'm here for you, Sanji said, his eyes full of adoration. Enough talk, just get us out of these things. Nami snapped. We'd need fire to melt these, but this castle is already falling apart. Let's just get out of here. Vivi urged. Sanji looked around, then said, Miss Nami, hold on to me. Usopp, grab onto me too. Sanji scooped up Nami with one arm and Usopp with the other, and bolted out of the room. Vivi followed close behind. They burst out of the collapsing white candle castle. The castle was extremely fragile from the heat of the candles. With a loud crash, the whole thing crumbled. Phew, that was close, Sanji sighed. Usopp stared at the wreckage. We made it. Unbelievable. Now we need to find a way to melt these candle shackles off Nami and Usopp, Vivi said. Sanji looked sympathetically at Nami. Right, Miss Nami's still stuck in these awful things. Vivi grabbed a jar of palm oil from Karoo's backpack. This should work as fuel. Vivi handed it to Sanji. Okay, Sanji said, and poured the palm oil on the ground and lit it with his lighter. The heat melted the candle shackles binding Nami and Usopp. Woohoo! We're free! Usopp cheered. What a nightmare, Nami muttered. Hey, what are those? Nami asked, pointing at two giants by the lake. Those are giants being controlled by the enemy, Vivi explained. Yeah, they were bragging about controlling powerful giants when they captured us, Usopp added. Sanji glanced towards the lake, where Luffy, Zoro, and Rogge were locked in a fierce battle. Everyone, stay put here for now. Just try to stay safe, Sanji instructed. By the lake, Rogge, Luffy, and Zoro were fiercely battling with Mr. 3 and the two giants. Rogge was going toe-to-toe with Mr. 3. Hahaha, if you think just changing my weapons will help you win, you're wrong. I'm someone who can take on anyone head-on. Mr. 3 cackled. We'll see about that, Rogge replied. Alright then, Candle heavy knight armor. Mr. 3's hair flared up, candle wax shot out of his arms, the wax quickly expanded to the size of a house and rapidly changed shape. Rogge watched in awe as the candle wax formed a massive suit of armor. It turned into a 10-meter tall heavy knight's armor. Ahahaha. This is my ultimate weapon, the heavy knight armor. Mr. 3 was positioned in the head of the armor. Soon, a helmet sealed him in, leaving only a few gaps for ventilation. The armor, made of sharp, jagged candles, radiated power. Impressive, right? But it needs some color to really show its power. Mr. 3 announced. Suddenly, a triceratops appeared, carrying a chair on its back. A little girl sat on the chair, holding a paintbrush and an ink cartridge. SS Golden Week, color me as planned. Mr. 3 commanded. SS Golden Week waved a watercolor pen and painted Mr. 3's heavy knight armor. Perfect. Now it's even more intimidating. Mr. 3's heavy knight armor now had a shiny silver metallic finish, making it look like real silver armor. The 10-meter tall armor was menacing. Okay, since you're using a big guy, I'll need a big guy to fight you too. Rogge ran to a nearby thick cedar tree. King of the forest, Dryad. Rogge embraced the fir tree, and his body glowed green. The power of his plant-based powers began to transform the cedar tree. The cedar tree rapidly grew taller, reaching about 10 meters. And it became thicker. Finally, two strong arms sprouted from the trunk, and the roots transformed into two thick legs. At the top of the torso, the Dryad's eyes and mouth appeared. Rogge grabbed his vine whip and climbed to the top of the tree spirit. I'll fight you with this. Rogge said. The king of the forest Dryad faced the heavy knight armor. Well, not bad. I admit the thing you created is pretty strong. Its strength is definitely impressive. But let's have a showdown. Mr. 3 declared. Alright. King of the forest Dryad versus heavy knight armor. This battle will be one for the ages. Rogge responded. The king of the forest Dryad clenched its fist, like a powerful fighter. Chapter 35 Rogge vs Mr. Point 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sword first. The heavy knight armor swung its sword, aiming for the forest king Dryad. The forest king grabbed the blade with both hands. Whoa, that's some serious strength, 3 remarked. The knight and the forest king locked in a stalemate. Then, with a powerful heave, the forest king threw the heavy knight armor aside. The knight regained his footing, and 3, inside, glared at the forest king. Fine, let's try this. Under 3's control, the knight armor slashed at the forest king's head. Where Rogge stood, the forest king's arm fiercely resisted the blow. Even though the forest king's wood was harder than normal, steel was still steel. The forest king's left arm was almost severed. Rogge quickly activated his plant ability, and his body glowed green. The forest king's severely injured left arm rapidly regenerated. Since you're hiding in that suit, I'll just have to deal with you another way. Rogge controlled the forest king. The giant plant creature opened its massive mouth. Rogge jumped inside. Once inside the forest king, Rogge could feel the changes in the behemoth and the surrounding environment through his plant ability. What the forest king saw, he saw. What the forest king heard, he heard. He could control the forest king's movements with incredible precision. Rogge was like a mecha pilot, except he was controlling a giant tree spirit. Whoa, you can actually get inside that plant monster. 3's voice echoed. Rogge controlled the forest king, and the giant began to fight with a new level of coordination. the Forest King, controlled by Rogge, charged toward Three's heavy knight armor, closing the distance. It grabbed him in a bear hug. "What are you doing?" Three yelled, terror lacing his voice. The Forest King lifted the heavy knight armor into the air. "Let's see how you like a little wrestling." Rogge's voice boomed through the Forest King. The Forest King hurled the heavy knight armor dozens of yards. It crashed to the ground with a heavy thud. SS Golden Week, riding on her Triceratops, saw Three flying through the air with his armor. "Yikes, maybe I should hang back a bit." SS Golden Week urged her Triceratops to move away. At the same time, Rogge, inside the Forest King, remained vigilant. Giving an enemy a chance to recover was practically asking for trouble. As the heavy knight armor struggled to stand, the Forest King punched him again. The knight went down. Left hook. Right hook. The Forest King used its superior strength to overwhelm the enemy, not giving him a chance to breathe. Enough. Giant wall of candles. Point 3 desperately activated his candle ability. Molten wax poured from the seams of the helmet, rapidly forming a massive wall. The wall soared 30 feet high. Using it to create some distance, Three and his armor retreated. "Damn it, he's stronger than me, but my armor is tougher." Three analyzed the situation. "Then I'll just have to use longer range." More molten wax flowed from the armor. Wax streamed from the seams as the knight armor dropped its sword and shield. Candle spear. A 60-foot-long spear solidified in the heavy knight armor's hands. "Oh, he brought a bigger stick," Rogge remarked. Inside the Forest King, Three roared from inside the heavy knight armor. "This time, reach will decide the battle." The heavy knight armor thrust the spear towards the Forest King. Thunk. Metal and wood met with a sickening sound, and the Forest King's body was pierced by the spear. After all, steel was steel. "Smart move." Using a spear to counter close-quarters combat, Rogge said, inside the Forest King. "Wahaha. You're done for." Three bellowed from inside the armor. The momentum seemed to shift. "You forgot one thing," Rogge announced. At the same time, the Forest King grabbed the spear that had impaled it with both hands. "I'm still stronger." Point 3's expression shifted. Though the armor kept it hidden, the Forest King gripped the white candle spear and, with a surge of strength, wrestled the weapon away. "Now I have the long weapon again." The Forest King spun the spear and aimed it at Three's armor. "What?" Three paled. Hidden in the helmet, the spear thrust toward the head of the heavy knight armor. The knight quickly raised his arms to block, deflecting the spear slightly. Still, there was a harsh cracking sound as a large chunk of the helmet shattered. Three's heart leaped into his throat, but the Forest King was already moving in for the kill. This time, Three covered his head with his arms. The heavy wax armor was as hard as steel and could withstand similar attacks. His arms battered, Three retreated, controlling the heavy knight armor to create distance. "Even my ace in the hole is struggling against this guy," Three sighed, frustrated. "But I have one last trick up my sleeve. There's a reason this heavy knight armor is my trump card. It's got more flexibility." Point 3 finally managed to put some distance between himself and the Forest King. More molten wax oozed from the seams in the helmet. The wax didn't form anything else. Instead, it solidified around the lower body of the armor. Rogge, inside the Forest King, watched to see what Three was planning. He saw the shape of the lower body rapidly transform, becoming a Tyrannosaurus. "Wahahaha. Sorry to keep you waiting. This is the heavy knight armor's super form. Dragon Knight." Point 3 roared triumphantly. Chapter 37, The Carnival Night of the Ancient Island After the Great War. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Rogge headed toward the giants. Luffy and Zoro were fighting. Luffy and Zoro had already taken them down. Standing bruised and panting in front of the fallen giants, Rogge approached, and Zoro just grunted, "About time." "Man, I'm beat, but it's been a while since I felt this good." Luffy exclaimed, "That straw hat guy always has so much energy." Zoro, ever the calm swordsman. "Must have been a tough fight," Rogge said. "Yeah, but we didn't actually kill them," Zoro replied. "Right, they were being controlled," Rogge confirmed. Just then, Nami and the others called out. Zoro, Luffy, and Rogge all turned to them, relieved. "Hey, Sanji, Vivi. You guys rescued Nami and Usopp. Luffy shouted, grinning. I'm so glad you're okay, Usopp said, tears welling up. Good to see you're both alright. Rogge smiled at Nami and Usopp. Zoro glanced at Sanji, who was still sporting his suit, completely unscathed from the rescue mission. The love cook actually pulled through, Zoro muttered. Alright, Seaweed Head, did you see how bravely I rescued the damsel in distress Nami? Sanji snapped back, and just like that, they were at it again. Rogge then noticed a little girl standing next to Vivi and Karu. Oh, right. This little girl was found in the woods after we left the lake island. She's the Baroque Works agent, Golden Week, Vivi explained. Whoa, she's number 3's partner? Luffy asked, surprised. Yeah. Even though she's tiny, she's actually a supervillain, Usopp added dramatically. Golden Week looked terrified, like she was about to cry. Hey, take it easy, you're scaring her, Rogge said quickly, crouching down to comfort her. He looked into Golden Week's big, watery eyes. You're so young, I bet you were forced into all this. Don't be afraid. I just need to ask you, where are those patterns on the giants? Rogge asked gently. Golden Week squeezed out tears, as if she'd been wronged. The patterns are on their feet, she whispered. Zoro immediately used his sword to slice open the giant's boots. Sure enough, there were yellow-green friendship circle patterns on the soles of their feet. After they destroyed the patterns, the giants slowly regained consciousness. This time, though, they weren't hostile. Luffy and the others explained everything that had happened. So, that's what was going on, Dory, the giant with the exaggerated beard, boomed. We've been under their control this whole time, Rogge, the noisy, big-nosed giant, added. Ha! This is awesome. I had a great fight. Luffy cheered. Dory looked at Luffy and the crew, and said, it was a good fight. Rogge chimed in, it's the first time in 100 years that outsiders have beaten us. 100 years, that everyone was stunned. Yeah, we came here to duel because of some agreement a century ago. But after all this time, neither of us has won. Dory and Rogge then burst out laughing. We also got to test our strength against some worthy opponents, Rogge said, looking at Luffy and his friends with admiration. Usopp eagerly began chatting with the two giants, and Luffy joined in, equally excited. Before long, the two were bonding with the giants. Meanwhile, Nami and Sanji were talking to Rogge about other things. Number 3 had a log pose that pointed to Alabasta, but it's destroyed now, right? Nami asked. Yeah. If that's the case, we need to get off this island fast. It's not a good place to stay, Rogge said. Ugh, all that fighting for nothing, Nami complained. Nonsense. My chivalrous rescue of Miss Nami was a great success. Sanji replied, looking at Nami with adoring eyes. I just asked the giants, and they said it takes a year for the magnetism on this island to fully recharge, Nami said. So let's fix the going merry up quick and get moving, even if it means exploring for a while. Maybe we'll find another log pose, Rogge suggested. I don't want to stay here any longer. I've only been here a little over a day, and so much crazy stuff has happened, Nami said. Yeah, best to leave as soon as possible, Vivi agreed. Once they'd decided, they told Luffy and Usopp their plan. Do we have to leave already? I wanted to hang out with these guys, Luffy whined. Yeah. We could have a bonfire tonight and roast dinosaur meat and ancient fruit. Usopp said, enthusiastic. We don't have time for that, Nami replied. Just then, Dory spoke up, hold on. You want to leave? Then tomorrow would be better. Why? Zoro asked, suspicious. Because a giant island-eating goldfish monster is lurking around this place. It doesn't matter if you come, as long as you leave, the monster will attack. Rogge added. So, if you stay one more night, we'll help you take it down tomorrow. We can only beat it during the day. Please, you're our saviors. We owe you this, Dory said, imploringly. Everyone exchanged uneasy glances. Alright, we can stay. It's the least we can do, seeing as they are offering, Luffy said cheerfully. Even though Luffy was impulsive, the fact that there was a giant island-eating goldfish monster made everyone agree. The sun continued its descent, and night fell again on the ancient island. That night, in an open space near the lake, a towering bonfire blazed. "This is the best. It's been so long since I've had good booze," Rogge roared to the sky. "This stuff is amazing." Dory shouted happily. Usopp, holding his glass high with his long nose, did a silly performance, making everyone laugh. "Check this out. Flying rubber meat." Luffy used his rubber arms to launch a piece of dinosaur meat into the air, catching it in his mouth as it came down. Dinosaur meat falling from the sky. Usopp yelled, delighted. Sanji chuckled, "Isn't that wasting food?" "Nah, as long as it ends up in your mouth, it's all good." "Gonna drink all the wine on the ship tonight," Zoro muttered, downing a huge cup in one gulp. "Well, this is nice. Good to relax," Nami said, sighing. Rogge and Vivi were talking to Golden Week. "I heard you were kind of an outcast because of your ability to draw," Vivi said gently. Golden Week nodded her head. "Yeah, I can make people do things with my drawings. That's why people don't like me. There's not much for you here. Why don't you sail with us for a while? We can find you a safe place to live once we get somewhere," Rogge offered. Golden Week was silent. She had done a lot of bad things with number 3, even if she was just following orders. "Okay," the little girl suddenly said, a happy expression on her face. "Huh, you agreed pretty quick," Vivi and Rogge said, looking slightly surprised. Chapter 38. Leaving the Ancient Island, the Overlord bid farewell. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After the carnival night, morning finally broke over Ancient Island. The Straw Hat crew busily loaded the Merry with supplies, dinosaur meat and ancient fruits they'd scavenged on the island. Rogge, too, had collected a wealth of plants. For him, this island had been a goldmine, a place where he could fully utilize his abilities in the dense forests. "Hurry up, we gotta load these fruits and dinosaur meat," Sanji urged. "Will a dinosaur egg work?" Luffy asked, hefting a massive, half-human-sized egg. "Whoa, what an egg!" Usopp's eyes nearly popped. "Yeah, we can make a giant fried egg. Quit gawking and move it." Sanji snapped. Zoro, grumbling about empty wine barrels now filled with fresh water, hauled them onto the ship. "Figures the booze is all gone." With the Merry packed to the gills, they finally set sail. "Ah, finally leaving," Nami sighed in relief. "Yeah, that was one heck of a fight," Vivi agreed. "Hey, look. The giants are seeing us off," Sanji pointed out. Luffy, never one to miss a moment, immediately bounded to the bow. "Hey, you guys came to wave goodbye." Dongli and Brokey stood at the river mouth, weapons in hand. "Safe travels," Dongli boomed. "Hey, I've got an admirer." Brokey called out to Usopp on deck. "Hey, Master Brokey. I'm gonna go to Elbaf someday, the warriors' holy land." Usopp shouted back. "Good luck to ya." Dongli and Brokey chorused. The Merry sailed out of the estuary and back into the open sea. "Alright, time for us to help them out," Dongli declared. "Let's make sure our friends sail in peace," Brokey added. Suddenly, the sea ahead of the Merry surged. The crew stared in shock. A colossal creature rose from the depths. It had 2 enormous eyes and a distinct head. A goldfish? Everyone on the Merry gasped. This goldfish-shaped island eater was on par with Laboon at Reverse Mountain. The fact that it was a goldfish, normally small, made it even more absurd. Its eyes, bigger than Laboon's, stared blankly, seeming to swallow the sky and sea. "The island eater!" Brokey exclaimed. "Don't panic. Keep sailing straight." Dongli commanded. The monster opened its impossibly huge mouth, large enough to devour islands. It could easily swallow 10 warships or a fleet of pirate vessels. "This guy will eat us alive if we keep going," Zoro said, gripping his sword hilt. "Oh my god, what a terrifying creature." Nami paled. "We're gonna be fish food." Vivi cried. Karoo was too terrified to even squawk. Are you sure we can believe what they said? Sanji muttered through gritted teeth. No one could believe they'd survive sailing straight into that giant mouth. Sail straight. Luffy insisted. Right. That's what the sea warrior said. We gotta keep moving forward. Usopp agreed. Everyone, don't be scared. Close your eyes and hold a straight course, Rogge advised. The goldfish swallowed a massive amount of seawater, and the Mary was finally engulfed. Then, the giant fish snapped its mouth shut. We're eaten. Nami wailed on deck. No use crying now, gotta wait and see what happens, Zoro said calmly. What the heck? Sanji fretted. Just hold on tight, everyone. We'll see the light of day again, Rogge reassured them. Back on the shore, the two giants swung their weapons. Hegemony, that the earth-shattering sound shook the sky and sea. Dongli's giant sword and Broki's massive axe met with devastating force. The shockwave shattered their weapons. Even Elbaf's powerful blades couldn't withstand it. The goldfish was pierced through, leaving a gaping hole from front to back. Light flooded the Mary, and the ship shot forward. The crew, Luffy, Zoro, Usopp, Sanji, Vivi, Nami, Golden Week, and Rogge, stared in astonishment. We're flying! Usopp yelled. Yeah. The Mary's flying. Luffy cheered. They looked back to see the Island Eater's huge body with a massive hole, Dongli and Broki waving goodbye. Have a good trip, everyone. The giants roared. Thank you, that the crew shouted in unison. The Mary splashed back down into the sea. The Island Eater sank back into the depths. Dongli and Broki watched them disappear. Broki, I suddenly remembered, we were fighting over something, but what was it? Dongli said. Now that you mention it, that was 100 years ago. I can't quite put my finger on it, Broki replied. Suddenly, the volcano on the island erupted. Look! Time for us to fight again. This won't change, even if we can't remember the reason. Dongli said. Yeah, but it's too cramped here. Let's go to the lake. It's bigger, and it holds memories of our friends. Broki said. The two giants returned to the lake, where a giant forest king had become a wax figure. The Dryad and the heavily armored knight had merged into one. It's good to have this wax figure next to our dueling arena, Broki said. Yes, I like this wax figure too, the symbol of the warrior. Dongli said. Come on, let's fight. That the two warriors began their fierce battle in the open space next to the wax figure. 100 years ago, the two giants had each captured a sea king. They began fighting over who caught the bigger one. The century-long battle continues to this day. The wax figure on the side continues to witness this great battle. Chapter 39 Groping forward and approaching huge objects. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After leaving Ancient Island, the Mary continued its voyage on the Grand Line. Since the ship's compass wasn't fully charged, the Straw Hat Pirates were basically sailing blind. Under the clear sky and blazing sun, everyone on deck was pondering their next move. Seriously, is this even smart? We're drifting around like a bunch of lost sheep, Usopp complained from his spot on the deck. Yeah, well, we screwed up, what else can we do? There's no Alabasta GPS handy, Zoro mumbled. Just waking up again. Luffy sat on the bow, constantly scanning the horizon. But it was still just endless sea, with no land in sight. Seeing everyone lounging around, Sanji shifted his attention to Vivi, who was perched in the crow's nest. These guys are unbelievable. Miss Vivi's stressing about her country, and they're just being lazy, Sanji muttered, puffing on his cigarette. Ever since they left the island, Vivi had been spending most of her time up in the lookout. Even though she looked calm, her eyes betrayed her anxiety. What was happening with the civil war in Alabasta? Her father must be working himself to the bone trying to deal with it. Karoo, ever loyal, waited patiently at the base of the mast for his mistress to come down. Just then, Nami emerged from the cabin and headed towards the mast. Miss Nami, how about a glass of orange juice? You must be parched out here in this heat, Sanji said, greeting her with a charming smile. Sure, that sounds good, Nami replied. Sanji turned his gaze towards the crow's nest again. Miss Vivi, want me to bring you up a glass of orange juice too? Yes, please, Sanji. Thank you, Vivi said, snapping out of her thoughts. Karoo squawked his agreement from below, Gah. Got it, one for you too. And everyone else, after I serve Miss Nami and Miss Vivi, Sanji announced before heading back to the galley. Nami stood at the base of the mast and called up to Vivi, you've been up there all day. Come down for a bit. No, I'm fine up here, Vivi answered politely. Nami sighed, unable to persuade her. Just then, they heard another door creak open. Rogge stepped out of the cabin, followed by Miss Golden Week. Nami looked at Rogge. Rogge, ever since we left the island, you've been obsessed with those plants you brought back, trying to transform them. You need to take a break. Rogge replied, true, but I've already transformed a bunch of new plants that can be used for weapons and stuff. He then turned to Miss Golden Week. Marianne, you really can't put down those pancakes, can you? Rogge asked. Marianne, Miss Golden Week's real name, this little girl who loved tea, cannot put down the tea snacks made by Sanji after arriving on the Mary. Because Chef Sanji's cooking is amazing, the cute little girl said. You talking about me? That's right. Sanji, carrying a tray loaded with orange juice, emerged from the galley. Well, I'll be. I didn't expect such an honest compliment from a little thing like you, Sanji said, squatting down and smiling at Marianne. Sanji's cooking was top-notch, but Luffy, Zoro, and Usopp just scarfed it down without much fanfare. Nami, Vivi, and Rogge always offered polite praise. But this little painter girl, who had just joined the crew, was giving him genuine appreciation, which made Sanji even happier. Rogge looked at Marianne, this little girl who could create amazing visual effects with her color traps, but was actually a sweet and easygoing kid. Show her some kindness and give her some treats, and she'd practically treat you like family. It was a shame she'd been manipulated by Baroque works. Marianne, your powers are really incredible. Just drawing can create so many effects, Rogge said. Marianne shook her head. I guess it's just a gift. I've always loved to draw since I was a little girl, but I never thought it would have such a big impact. Rogge looked back at Vivi in the crow's nest. Ah, to be a kid again. You can just eat snacks all day. Hearing this, Marianne said, actually, I have my own worries. I have to practice my drawing all the time. Nami, looking at Marianne, suddenly had an idea. Marianne, you could really help, Nami said. Huh? Marianne looked at the orange-haired navigator, confused. Can't you draw a relaxing blue color? Nami asked. You remembered wrongly, it was green, Marianne corrected. Right, green. You could paint Vivi with green, so she'll feel more relaxed and calm, Nami suggested. Marianne also looked at Vivi in the crow's nest. Well, yeah. But will she get mad afterwards? We can just redraw it again. I'll smooth things over, Nami reassured her. Roger looked at Nami and Marianne. Nami was hoping to use Marianne's relaxing green color trap to temporarily ease Vivi's anxiety, but the real solution was finding a faster way to Alabasta. He'd been working hard the past few days to transform the plants he'd brought from the ancient island, creating new plant weapons. If only Alabasta was also a forest kingdom, Rogge said. He had really shined in the forest area above the ancient island. The forest was Rogge's element. In the desert, he'd have to rely on the plants he carried with him, but that was enough, and the right time and place cannot always be relied on. The Mary continued to drift. Vivi, who had been at the top of the mast for a long time, finally decided to come down, but just then, she noticed something in the distance. What's that? Vivi grabbed her binoculars and took a look. She saw a slender, oval-shaped white object moving in the distance. It didn't look like a cloud, it looked like something man-made. Vivi lowered the binoculars and called down to the deck, everyone, heads up. There's something moving in the sky, and it's heading our way. Everyone on deck looked up. The oval object in the distance was getting closer. Luffy, eager to get a better look, stretched his neck out 100 meters. Hey, that thing's still far away. Stretching your neck won't help, Zoro teased. Roger also walked to the bow, looking at the approaching object in the distance. The object was getting closer and closer, and heading straight towards the Mary. The object in the sky became clearer. Roger realized what it was an airship, a white giant airship flying across the blue sky. Chapter 40 Huge Airship, Unknown Fate. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The giant white airship hung in the sky. This massive, gas-filled oval got closer and closer to the Mary. Whoa! Check it out! A giant balloon! Luffy yelled, excited. Weird. It really does look like a huge balloon. But there's something underneath it, Sanji observed, squinting at the approaching airship. Chopper hopped onto Zoro's head, staring. Wow! What is that? Is it a flying fish, or a flying Neptune? Chopper asked, eyes wide. Zoro patted Chopper's head. Hey, get down. Who else would build a balloon that big just for kicks? What a waste of time. Nami frowned, gazing at the airship. That's so strange. I've read a ton of nautical books, but I've never heard of anyone making a balloon this big. Vivi came down from the crow's nest. Roger watched the approaching airship, thinking, what's going on? Someone's got to be on that thing. The airship drew nearer, and the pod hanging beneath it became clearly visible. Inside the airship's pod, in a large captain's cabin, a group of Navy soldiers in white uniforms worked. An officer dressed as a general, wearing a white cloak, stood among them. The general was a gaunt middle-aged man with sharp, blade-like eyes and a hooked nose. Suddenly, a naval sergeant ran up and saluted. Major General Hawke, we've spotted a small pirate ship directly below, the sergeant reported. The Major General fixed the sergeant with a piercing stare, making him flinch. Humph, a pirate ship, you say? Capture it, Major General Hawke said, flexing a long, powerful hand. The sergeant thought it looked like an eagle's talon. The sergeant glanced at Major General Hawke's hand, then quickly said, yes, sir. We're on it. After the sergeant left, Major General Hawke studied his right hand. There's no such thing as a good pirate. And this airship is still in the experimental phase. Pirates will make excellent test subjects. He clenched his right hand into a fist, his knuckles popping loud enough to be heard throughout the cabin. Back on the deck of the Mary, Roger, Luffy, Sanji, and the others were still staring up at the airship. It finally flew directly overhead. It's huge. Everyone murmured. The giant airship loomed over the Mary like a skyscraper over a toy boat. I didn't realize there was a pod hanging under it. Looks like some kind of cabin, Nami said, craning her neck. Below the airship was a massive, white-painted pod with windows. It was easily 10 times the size of the Mary. It's like a flying ship, Sanji said, flicking his cigarette butt overboard. But they put a giant oval balloon on it, Zoro pointed out. Roger looked up at the airship. Since there's a pod, there has to be someone in there. And you can see a propeller behind the balloon. That must be how it moves. But who exactly is on this thing? There are a lot of powerful pirates on the Grand Line. Could it be a pirate airship, or, Suddenly, Luffy threw his hands up in the air. All right. Let's go up and take a look. No way. Zoro, Nami, and Usopp shouted in unison. There could be weirdos on board that thing. This could be trouble. Nami said, clenching her fists. It's probably not just anyone who can build a monster like that. Usopp added. We don't know anything about them. We need to be careful, Zoro said calmly. He wasn't scared, but if whoever was on that airship had bad intentions, and if the airship was armed, the Straw Hats and the Mary would have nowhere to run. Hey, look! It's descending. Roger said, pointing. They all looked up and saw that the airship was indeed getting closer. It had been thousands of feet in the air, now it seemed to be only a few hundred feet above the sea. Are we being targeted? Usopp asked nervously. Balk. Karoo and Marianne squawked in fear. Luffy, oblivious to the danger, was thrilled. He couldn't wait to get on board. Stop standing around. Turn the ship. Paddle. Nami snapped. Right, Miss Nami. Sanji said, ever the charmer. Yeah, do something. Usopp scrambled to obey, but the airship was moving too fast. The Mary couldn't get out from underneath it in time, suddenly, for massive grappling hooks shot down from the pod toward the Mary. Ah! Eek! Balk! Ku! Nami, Usopp, Kuro, and Marianne screamed in terror. The grappling hooks slammed into the hull of the Mary on all sides, huge iron chains were attached to the hooks, the Mary shuddered violently and began to rise, hauled upward by the airship's grapples. "We're being kidnapped," Sanji said, staring at the chains. "Chains? Damn them!" Zoro growled, stepping onto the chains and slashing at them with his swords. "Ha ha ha! We're flying!" Luffy yelled, ecstatic. "Who are these guys?" Vivi asked, worried. Roger watched the airship descend, a grim expression on his face. "They're coming for us. This isn't good." An unknown fate awaited them all as the Mary was pulled hundreds of feet into the air. There was no escape now. Whatever was on that airship was about to find out what they were made of. Chapter 41 Angel-class airship Saros. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Mary was hauled up to the massive airship by 4 huge iron chains. "Woohoo! We're under a flying ship." Luffy cheered. Nami punched him, annoyed. "We're being kidnapped. What's so great about that?" "Oh man, we're being kidnapped." Usopp wailed, looking panicked. The giant airship was hundreds of feet above the ocean, making escape impossible. "Who is that?" Zoro wondered, staring at the airship. "Let's get the lay of the land first," Sanji suggested. "Look! Someone's coming out," Vivi pointed out. A newly built hatch opened on the airship. A group of heavily built Navy soldiers, roped to the airship for safety, descended onto the Mary's deck. These Marines were tougher than your average sailor and carried a ton more firepower. They were all armed with machine guns or grenade launchers. They had steel plates protecting their foreheads, chests, and joints. And Navy. Everyone on the Mary's deck was stunned. "It's the Navy, all right," Roger muttered, seeing the massive airship. He'd figured it was either the work of pirates or the Navy. "All right, you pirates, let's go. We're taking you in," bellowed a burly, bearded Marine. "Navy, huh? That does it." Luffy's expression turned thunderous. He clenched his fists, ready to attack. "Hold on," Roger said, quickly stepping in front of Luffy. "They're the Navy. They want to arrest us." Luffy protested. "Right now, we need to size up the situation. The Mary's hundreds of feet in the air. They could drop us any second. And if we start a firefight here, the Mary won't be able to handle that kind of firepower," Roger explained. Sanji chimed in, "He's right. They're all packing machine guns and cannons. If they use them here, the Mary's gonna get blown to smithereens. Damn it, those guys." Luffy reluctantly unclenched his fists. The bearded Marine sneered, "So, are you coming quietly or not? Otherwise, you and your pirate ship are going for a swim in the deep blue sea." "We're not surrendering without a fight, but maybe we can try boarding that thing first," Roger suggested. The Marine seemed unimpressed. "Like you're in any position to negotiate," the bearded Marine scoffed. Suddenly, Roger's rattan whip lashed out. Vine whip, throat snare. The Marine found himself with the whip tightly wrapped around his neck. At the same time, Zoro sprang into action. He swiftly positioned himself between 2 sailors, placing Wado Ikemanji and Sandai Katetsu against their necks. Sanji kicked a grenade launcher out of another Marine's hands. Luffy's rubbery arms quickly grabbed 2 more. "You guys." The Marine with the whip around his throat choked out. These weren't just any sailors, they were the elite of naval headquarters, the commandos for this airship, but the pirates had moved so fast they quickly understood they were at a disadvantage. Besides, they were only secured to the airship by a single rope. If it snapped, they'd be falling into the ocean below. "We might be pirates, but we'd still like to come aboard with a little dignity," Roger said firmly. "Damn it," the bearded Marine muttered. He could tell now that these weren't your average run-of-the-mill pirates. "Fine, you can go inside first. We'll let Major General Hawke deal with you," the Marine relented. Okay. Then put your weapons away first, Roger countered. The naval commandos reluctantly slung their machine guns and grenade launchers over their backs. Meanwhile, the hatch below the airship remained open. All right, let's go, Roger said. Luffy pumped his fist. Awesome. We get to go in. Didn't think we'd get in without a fight, Zoro said, sheathing his swords but remaining alert. Nami eyed the open hatch warily. It's probably a trap. Yeah. Let's not go in. Usopp agreed nervously. If we don't go in, they'll just capture the Mary anyway. Think they'll let us leave if we don't talk? Roger countered. That shut everyone up. The Mary was hanging precariously from the airship. If they dropped it, it would be smashed to pieces. Roger was certain that negotiation was their only hope. Roger swung the vine whip up to the hatch above and hauled himself up. Luffy used his rubber powers to bring the others up as well. One by one, they entered the airship through the built-in door. The interior of the pod was surprisingly vast. Comparable to the inside of a large ship, they found themselves in a large room connected to a huge corridor, with smaller passageways leading to rooms on either side. On one side were huge glass windows. Whoa! This is way bigger than the Mary's cabin. Luffy exclaimed. Usopp looked around nervously. There's definitely a trap waiting for us here. Huh. I think I smell food. There's a kitchen here. Sanji announced. The Marines stood guard nearby. They all wore stern expressions, but nobody dared to make a move. All right, take us to your Major General. Let's talk, Zoro demanded. Lead the way, Roger told the bearded Marine, grumbling. The Marine led Roger, Luffy, and the others down the corridor. They cautiously made their way to the end of the passage. There, they found a large cabin surrounded by square glass windows. A long table sat in the center. Everyone working there was startled when Roger, Luffy, and the others were brought in. Armed soldiers quickly surrounded them. Hey, Zack. Why aren't they tied up? A man in a lieutenant commander's uniform asked. These guys are strong. They turned the tables on us as soon as we boarded the pirate ship, the bearded Marine, Zack, explained. These guys, huh? The lieutenant commander said, surprised. The elite naval commandos on this airship had been sent just now. Before the lieutenant commander could say anything else, a voice cut through the tension. That won't be necessary. Roger, Luffy, Nami, and the others watched as the chair at the head of the table spun around. A man with sharp eyes and a face like an eagle sat there. He wore a general's uniform and a large cloak. Welcome to the Navy's new weapon, the Angel-class airship, Saros. The man stood up and fixed them with a piercing stare. Roger met his gaze, feeling as though the man's eyes were boring into him. Are you Major General Hawke? Roger asked. Indeed. I am Rear Admiral of the Navy headquarters, and currently in command of this experimental weapon. Rear Admiral Hawke. The man confirmed. Chapter 42 Bird Fruit. Eagle Form. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Rogge-eyed Major General Hawke, whose hawk-like gaze swept over the Straw Hat pirates, missing no one. What kind of experimental airship weapon? Luffy yelled. This Saros was built under the supervision of Dr. Vegapunk, a scientific branch of the world government. It's the first Angel-class airship, a landmark moment for naval aviation, Major General Hawke declared. Science branch? Sanji asked, confused. That's right. Besides the Navy, the world government also has other armed forces, like this science division. They specialize in researching, developing, and testing advanced weaponry. Naturally, once developed, these weapons are handed over to the Navy and other intelligence agencies. We're still the Navy, we just use the scientific branch's weapons, Major General Hawke clarified. Rogge nodded. So you're using your airship to test weapons on pirates in the Grand Line? Exactly. Pirates are the perfect targets. Hawke's eyes narrowed. Then why didn't you just blow up our ship? I doubt this airship's lacking heavy weaponry. Rogge pressed. Simple. I wanted to capture you pirates and then have some fun, torturing you before escorting you to the Navy's prison. Major General Hawke's tone turned cruel. Damn, so that's his plan, Sanji spat. You want to capture and torture us, you jerk. I'm gonna kick your ass. Luffy roared, clenching his fists. Is that so? You might have taken down my commandos, but you still have to deal with the real muscle on this airship, Major General Hawke sneered. Everyone fall back, Hawke ordered the marines surrounding Rogge, Luffy, and the others. The marines retreated, creating space. Now, I'll show you my strength. The Major General spread his arms wide, and his body began to change drastically. His slender hands morphed into eagle claws, his body enlarged, yet remained lean, his face transformed from human to an eagle's head. Whoa, that's freaky, Luffy exclaimed. He's got a bird face, Usopp said. More like an eagle, Zoro corrected. So, you're a devil fruit user, Rogge observed. He was clearly an animal-type devil fruit user, which typically has 3 forms, human, animal, and hybrid. Major General Hawke had now assumed his hybrid form. Indeed. I'm the bird fruit, eagle model. Major General Hawke's voice turned sharp. All right. Now, I'll take you on one by one. If you lose, you all get to experience my hospitality in prison. Major General Hawke fixed his eagle eyes on the group, sizing them up like prey. Damn it. Is he for real? Usopp sweated nervously. Even Zoro could feel the potent bloodlust radiating from the transformed Major General. The eagle-headed man continued, I'll even give you a gauntlet. If you win, I'll let you go and ensure your ship makes it safely back to sea. You chicken. Major General Hawke taunted. Why would I be scared of kicking your ass? Luffy shot back. Okay, let's get started. But this isn't the place. We'll move to one of the larger cargo holds. Major General Hawke said. A naval sergeant led the way to a large cargo hold on the airship. The Straw Hat Pirates stood on one side, and Rear Admiral Hawke and the Navy stood on the other. All right, send in your first fighter. Major General Hawke commanded. I'll go first, that the ever-optimistic Captain Luffy volunteered. Luffy balled his fists, his innocent face alight with fighting spirit and confidence. Luffy, you got this. Usopp cheered. Yeah, kick his ass, Luffy. Nami shouted. Rogge, Sanji, and Zoro watched intently. Wei Wei, Karoo, and Marion observed silently. Hey, Nami, I got something new. Usopp's special cheerleading gloves. Here's one for you. Usopp presented Nami with a cheerleading glove decorated with strange flowers. Those look weird, Nami commented, accepting the glove. Ha, you noticed. The plants are from a forgotten island. I thought they'd be cool on cheerleading gloves, Usopp boasted. On the Navy side, the sailors were chatting. Major General Hawke is back to his old habits of challenging prisoners. Always the same. Capture pirates and then, compete. Of course, they have to be pirates with some fight in them. He might be a bastard, but at least we get to watch pirates get their asses kicked. Some pirates don't even make it through the fight. This group took down the commandos, but they're facing Major General Hawke. Major General Hawke strode to the center of the hold, Luffy standing 10 meters away. Okay, ready to start? Luffy asked, locking eyes with his opponent. Go ahead, make your move, Major General Hawke said confidently. Okay. Gum Gum Pistol. Luffy shot his right fist forward. Just as the punch was about to connect, Major General Hawke vanished. What? Nami and Usopp gasped. No, he's just moving really damn fast. He is practically teleporting. Zoro observed keenly. Not bad, a rubber fruit user. Major General Hawke suddenly appeared behind Luffy. Gum Gum Bullet. Luffy spun around, swinging his fist back. His opponent vanished again. This time, Luffy quickly scanned his surroundings, but there was no sign of his enemy. Looks like you've already lost. Major General Hawke's voice came from above. Eagle leg. The eagle leg came swooping down toward Luffy's head. Gum gum balloon. Luffy shot his fist up. This time, they were close enough for an attack. Eagle kick, 1,000 attacks. With lightning speed and precision, the opponent attacked Luffy. Whack. Luffy fell to the floor, the wood beneath broken into pieces. Ha! You wanted to fight me up close. Major General Hawke landed. Chapter 43 The Ferocious Major General Hawke. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Major General Hawke grinned, watching Luffy sprawled on the ground. Luffy's dead? Usopp yelled, shocked and angry. This guy's strong, Sanji observed after watching the fight. Luffy struggled to his feet. Not done yet. Luffy grunted, standing tall. Hawke eyed Luffy like prey. Oh, you're a tough one. I'll just have to beat you, till you can't stand. Luffy's knuckles cracked as he clenched his fist. Rubber. Machine gun. Luffy unleashed a flurry of blows at Hawke, his fists blurred, landing dozens of strikes in rapid succession. Hawke dodged swiftly, forcing Luffy to intensify his attack, his fists hammered in a wide arc. Got him. Luffy landed a solid blow, but everyone watched in disbelief as Hawke caught both of Luffy's fists in mid-air with his clawed hands. What? Luffy gasped, staring at Hawke. Humph. Speed, observation, and these eagle claws are my strengths, Hawke boasted. He gripped Luffy's fists and used them to hurl him away. You're not getting up this time. Hawke slammed Luffy into the warehouse floor, then hurled him against the walls and ceiling. The warehouse echoed with the sounds of impact until Hawke finally threw Luffy to the ground, leaving a crater. Rubber boy, you're durable, I'll give you that, Hawke admitted. He had killed plenty of opponents with those moves, but Luffy's rubber body was surprisingly resilient. But I'm finishing this right now. Hawke leaped, crossing his eagle claws in front of his chest. Flying eagle claw, chest breaker. Luffy grabbed a pipe on the wall and yanked himself out of the way, but Hawke adjusted his course in a flash. Slash. Blood sprayed as Hawke's claws ripped across Luffy's chest. Luffy. Nami, Vivi, and Usopp screamed. Luffy crashed to the floor, the others rushed to his side. Luffy, wake up. Nami pleaded. You're too stubborn to die that easy, Usopp cried, cradling Luffy. Wait, his heart still beating. Vivi announced, checking Luffy. Damn it, that bastard. Sanji glared at Hawke. Rogge watched as Hawke prepared the final blow, his eyes and claws promising no mercy. That guy's ruthless, Saros muttered. Hawke surveyed the Straw Hat crew, pointed a claw at Sanji. You're next, Hawke stated flatly. Sanji glared back, his brow furrowed. Ha, a real man doesn't back down from a challenge. Sanji strode to the center of the damaged warehouse floor. He lit a cigarette and took a drag. After you, Hawke said. Sanji braced himself. Hey, bird brain, let me ask you something. If you take me down, green hair, and brown top here, will you leave everyone else alone? Sanji asked. Humph, that depends. If I win here, I might consider letting them off easy, though I won't promise I won't jail them. What happens to them after that isn't my concern, Hawke replied. Alright, listen up, green hair, Rogge. If I lose, you're the last line of defense, Sanji declared. Sauron and Roger exchanged glances with the curly-browed cook. Got it, Roger confirmed. Sauron didn't speak, but his eyes revealed he was ready for a fight. Here I go. Sanji rocketed towards Hawke. First course. Sanji aimed a kick at Hawke's head. Hawke was already reaching for Sanji's leg. Sanji twisted in mid-air and redirected his kick towards Hawke's legs. Leg meet. But Hawke jumped backwards, narrowly avoiding the blow. Damn. Sanji's attack missed. Hawke appeared behind Sanji. Flying eagle claws, sweeping storm. Hawke slashed his claws down toward Sanji's head. Sanji ducked. He flipped upside down. Back meet. Sanji kicked up with both feet, aiming for Hawke's ribs. Hawke was caught mid-swing, unable to dodge completely. Sanji's foot grazed Hawke's ribs. Damn, he's fast. Sanji was surprised at Hawke's speed. Oh, you're quick. And your close-range fighting is even better than that rubber guy, Hawke said. Luffy's rubber body was ideal for mid-range and long-range fights. But when it came to fighting up close, Sanji had him beat. Damn it, I can predict his movements, but he's still too fast, Sanji thought, warily eyeing his opponent. Speed is my greatest weapon. In my hybrid form, I'm fast enough to catch bullets with my bare hands, Hawke revealed. Looks like I need a more relentless attack, Sanji concluded.